Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is paying attention the doctor himself.
Konnichiwa.
Oh, you got more?
Konnichiwa.
All right, that's good, yeah.
Do you want me to ask where my passport is?
Oh, yeah, because I know that was a question you had this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was running around the house going, watashi no passporto wa doko desu ka?
And only you knew what that meant.
Yeah, but I was the only one here, so it was fine.
I do like that you messaged me going, you don't have to feed my cat, and then you said, never mind, I found my passport.
I did find my passport. I don't want to delve on, spend too much time on it because it's ultimately not important, but I just want to say it was my wife's fault.
And I'm sure you didn't bring that up.
Maybe,
I'm sure you were really chill about it.
I maybe lightly brought it up, but again, I mentioned this a lot.
What?
That she moves my stuff.
Oh.
And she does it because she just feels like doing things is the same as making progress.
I feel like we're saying the same
I
thing.
know. Trust me, I'm aware of the bed I've made.
And who's in that bed with you.
Yeah. Just a long-necked, listen to Ghost Facers. Everything's a crossover. I did find my passport, though. I spent a lovely weekend in Alaska. So
You stay at a hotel in Skagway?
yeah.
Oh, I've never stayed in Skagway.
Yeah, just at the Westmark right downtown there.
Oh, nice.
And I took the train for the first time. I took the White Pass.
The choo-choo?
Yeah, it was fun.
Ooh,
it was a cool trip. There's a couple of very
Like the right
nerve-wracking trestle bridges, but because it's like 130-year-old train track through the fucking mountains.
Sure, that's fine.
But it was fun. It was cool.
Yeah, I also went to Skagway this weekend.
I know. As we were leaving, we drove past you, and I was like, he's supposed to be looking after our cat.
You said the day before I needed to take care of it.
That was fucked of you.
And I told you. I texted you and said that.
Yeah. Well, here, let me. You did text me, so let me know that you did that. But again, because I was sort of in and out of, I was in and out of Wi-Fi and service, so I didn't get this until a very uncomfortable time at night. And the text I got was, "Don't worry, I filled your pussy." So,
you don't use your cell there? You don't use the American?
no. But who am I calling? I don't call people here.
Well, I use it for like directions and getting around. And,
Oh yeah, no. I'm good at things. I don't have to do that.
like finding your passport.
I did find it by myself, despite my wife's attempts to
Easy.
foil me. It was a conspiracy. It went all the way to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, look, there's not much to do, and it was a beautiful day in Skagway.
It was great.
I did a hike around the pond at the top of the hill,
Yeah, very nice.
which was very, very nice. And
We always go up to Reed's Falls because that's a nice.
it's a funny joke.
I mean, how dare you?
I think it's a
That man is a hero, Frank H. Reed.
Literally-
the hero of Skagway.
Basically, the day after I did that trip, today I got a thing that was like, today, last year, I was in Skagway.
I mean, I do feel like we get into these like patterns a little bit.
Yeah, literally.
We were at the wildlife preserve on Sunday, and in my Facebook memories, I had me at the wildlife preserve with my kid.
This is me messaging you the photo of Reed's Falls and going, it's the height of comedy.
You know what's not the height of comedy? I've been to that Pioneer Cemetery so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Henry McCool, best.
this trip is the first time I noticed how many infant graves there are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's so many infant to, like, I'd say 3-year-old graves.
A lot of small child
It's
graves.
really upsetting.
Yeah. Also, do you know the whole story about the avalanche and why there's a bunch of people died in one day?
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. So there was they were doing like this big like food party or something like that, going to go get some supplies from somewhere.
Right.
There was a huge avalanche and killed like a third of the population from that town.
That'd do it.
Yep. All good things, but they've got one that says Henry McCool, and I love that.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, I love that every time.
Fuck yeah.
Those are like good things.
Yeah. That's fucking cool, man.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Baby.
We were supported by listeners like you.
Yeah. We're PBS. Pretty
Boring
bad,
shit.
pretty bad speakers.
Hey, what's the worst thing about choking a giraffe?
Let me tell the joke that I made on Ghostfacers.
Yeah, give us context.
The context was we were talking about it would be funny if animals in real life said their names the way Pokemon do.
Yes.
And an example I threw out was just like giraffe.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about some other stuff.
And then I said, "Do you know the giraffes only make it? Don't
Oh,
make a
you
sound."
said giraffes only make a sound
they're
when they're dying. I said, how did you know that? And you said, I don't know. And then I said, what's the hardest part about choking a giraffe? And you said, I don't know. And I said, trying to reach its neck while you're fucking it from behind. And that was just off the dome. And I think I'm maybe more upset that that's where my mind went.
So quickly. Also,
It was instant.
there are other ways to choke a giraffe.
But that's the hardest one.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's the hardest part of choking it.
Yeah, but
that's
that's
the only way to kill it.
You didn't say that's the hardest way to choke a giraffe.
Yeah,
You
I
said
said, what's the hardest
part?
That's the hardest thing
as
about
if,
choking it.
As if it's the only way. You said, what's the hardest part?
I didn't say it's the only way. I just said the hardest part of choking it.
Yes.
Because
Which
every
by
time you're
saying-
choking it, you're obviously fucking it.
Exactly. This is what I mean. This is the only way to choke a giraffe is by fucking it from behind.
How are you going to get close enough?
Go from the front?
Holy shit. But how are you going to fuck it?
You don't have to if you just want to choke it. You can choke things and not fuck
I don't
them.
think you've thought this through.
If you're choking, someone better be also getting pleased.
Oh, Jesus. Good Lord.
This week we're talking about aliens within our solar system.
Yeah, mostly, but not exclusively, Martians.
Yeah, because they're Saturnians.
There are Saturnians.
In the future, but...
There are Venusians.
How do I know that? Fuck. Ugh.
Oh,
Ugh.
that's fucking... Oh, I'm so proud of you.
I hate that just came out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that just came out of you. And fucking a giraffe while you're choking, it just came out of me. We're meeting in the middle.
Just like my dick and the giraffe.
Yeah. Just like my dick in the giraffe's neck. We're meeting in the middle. Jesus Christ.
So yeah, Saturnians.
So yeah, at any rate, Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the questions.
Yeah. Let's
Before we're
let's
finally
do that.
arrested.
Yeah, sure.
First question comes from Facebook.
Going to the face in the book. Going to the Facebook.
First question comes from Gary and Chetta, who
All right,
asks,
Gary.
Gary.
Yeah. Gary in quotes mozzarella and cheddar.
Oh, nice.
That's fucking.
Fuck, that's good.
That's good, eh?
Yeah. No. Oh, fuck, that is good.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I'm good at this.
Oh my god.
Parmesan.
Oh, Parmesan. What is Jem's connection with 31st century inhabitants of Titan? Is Saturn Girl a changeling too?
So, let's hop right in. There are lots of, normally on these episodes and a lot of these questions will be about Martian Manhunter. Largely one of the only Martians, although like Kryptonians, there are also others. But there is this character called Jem, son of Saturn, that we've talked about before. He is, for all intents and purposes, very similar to Martian Manhunter. So Jem, son of Saturn, is also in the same era as the Justice League. This isn't like a future character or something like that. He is Saturnian.
That's right.
And what you learn is that the Saturnians are sort of they were like a genetic experiment, an offshoot species of Martians. So the green Martians created the red Saturnians and sort of treated them like equals in that. And the white Martians created white Saturnians and treated them like slaves.
Not good.
Listen, never trust a white. And
yeah.
But so the Saturnians also have a sort of like bifurcated society and stuff like that. But they end up being their own culture and stuff like that. They largely have the same powers, but Jem specifically had like a crystal that allowed him some like empathic powers, powers of like emotion and sensing emotion and stuff like that. But they've got a lot of the same powers as Martians. So like shape shifting, intangibility, flight strength, etc., etc. The weakness to fire, things like that, is all part of the Saturnian race as well. Now, this question, I talked about the 30th century, talking about the Legion, and what Gary's trying to get at is there a connection between Martians and Saturnians and the race of Titanians that Saturn Girl comes from in the future? Because she also is telepathic. So it feels like
there might be a connection there.
And maybe at some point there will be a better, stronger connection there. But truly, there isn't really.
Oh, really?
Feels like there should be, but there's not really. The Titanians from whom Saturn Girl is descended were actually a race started by humans transplanted there by the Dominators. The Dominators are the aliens that set off the gene bomb that like makes a bunch of metahumans and stuff like that.
But only because we were really, really bad.
Yeah. You were like, you little subs can go on this moon.
Yeah.
We're the Dominators.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Daddy.
Yeah, get me a giraffe.
So,
technically speaking, they are kind of separate lineages. One is a planet and a culture created by Martians, and the other is a planet and a culture descendant from metahumans. Both have telepathic abilities, but in the case of the Titanians, that is their power. They don't also shapeshift and do all the other stuff that Saturnians can do. So no, not really related. Only in a much more roundabout circumstantial way, not in a real genetic way.
Is Saturn Girl a changeling too?
No, she can't shapeshift and stuff like that. She's just a extremely powerful telepath.
I am Titanian.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
I was about to shit on it. I'm glad I didn't.
Nice. All right, now we're gonna leave Facebook and head on over to Threads.
Threads. No, I was right. Let's take that again. Threads.
Oh no, that no. Fuck you.
Yeah, maybe. I think that was 15.
Who the heck is Mr. Biscuits? Asks by Mr. E64, and why does it look like he's wearing tighty whities on his face?
Right. So there, during the...
This is a really simple concept, this guy.
Mr. Biscuits?
Yeah. Oh, very simple, easy way to describe...
Listen, during the New 52, there was a slightly different origin for Martian Manhunter. That instead of just being a Mars cop who gets teleported to Earth...
That was too simple.
He was actually he was like a bioengineered being, essentially, to bring about this thing called the Epiphany that would bring back Mars.
But you couldn't make this idea more complicated, could you?
Jean-Jeans at one point discovers or realizes that he is crucial to the Epiphany, and he splits himself into four beings.
There it is.
And a couple of them are humans that don't realize they're part of Martian Man. None of them really know who they are. But Mr. Biscuits is the most alien of them.
This is bonkers.
Mr. Biscuits is a lanky, green, almost frog-looking kind of guy who does kind of look like he's wearing underwear on his head. And he befriends this little girl, and he sort of represents Jean's subconscious, and so he has an affinity for cookies because, as we know, Jean's the Martian Manhunter, addicted to Chocos. They wreak havoc on Martian physiology.
Yes.
So he's addicted essentially to Oreos, and so this girl realizes he likes cookies and calls him Mr. Biscuits. And so this personality that is more or less like the id of Jean-Jean's, the sort of childlike, clown-like kind of id, is called Mr. Biscuits. And he walks around with a hat and a cane and stuff like
Insane.
That. Eventually, these four disparate personalities fuse back together into Jean-Jean's, and he has to fight his archenemy, Ma'alafa'ak, who in that version is a Martian with red skin, but is not always. it's a slightly weird version of it because it does make Martian Manhunter a different type of being. He's not just a regular Martian. He's essentially a bioweapon. Sort of created by like a combination of Martian science and like dark magic. Like that version of Ma'alafa'ak taps into, what do they call it? They might call it the anti-red. He's like doing like blood magic that like taps into the morphogenetic field, the thing that Animal Man accesses and shit like that, to make this sort of biofusion version of Jean-Jean's. It's a slightly weird origin that I think more or less doesn't count.
Crazy.
More or less doesn't count anymore.
I fucking can't stand it.
But Mr. Biscuit's a great character. Like, I would say almost makes that book worth it.
Almost.
And you know what? Like, on its own and as a different take on Martian Manhunter, like, it's fine. But I wouldn't like go and read that and then be like, now I know Martian Manhunter. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty far from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave Threads and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
The only question from Instagram.
Instagram.
What?
I was trying to do like another like
First question from Instagram comes from Hotel Sovi.
Oh yes.
You can check in.
Sorry, hang on. Hoteru Sovi.
Oh, but it's also Russian, so.
Or I guess I would say like Sovi no Hoteru, which means Sovi's hotel.
Okay. Look at you.
I'm learning how to do possessives.
Did you hear about that really dumb...
And I am possessive.
You know that really dumb Canadian couple that like with the 10 kids that moved to Russia because they were upset that we had LGBT rights in Canada?
Oh yeah, I mean fuck them. Yeah.
So funny. And then they were like, they showed up and they were like, why can't they speak English here?
I do remember that. They moved to Russia and they were like, oh, it's not tailored to us.
And they were like, what the fuck? Why can't we do this? And they made a big YouTube...
How come life is worse here?
Yeah, and then immediately that video got taken down and then put it back up and they were like, we love the Russian people and we are going to learn their language.
Yes. Like eyes darting off screen. Yeah.
So fucking funny.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's almost full parody.
Incredible. First question from Hotel Sovi. They ask, in JLA number 33, Alter Egos, written by Mark Waid, we see a white Martian remember who they are and wreck the Justice League pretty bad. That issue made me pretty terrified of the white Martians, and I was wondering if there are any other issues or arcs that have that level of horror with white Martians in them.
Maybe not that level of horror, but the white Martians are a sort of recurring threat for the JLA during that era.
Yeah.
All the way back to like the first arc of JLA. Like when, because you know there's that era where it's like the big hitters weren't on the Justice League for a long... So fucked. Weren't on the Justice League for a long time. So you had the Justice League Detroit and International,
sure,
and
yeah,
Europe and that, and like, yeah, maybe once in a while like Flash was on it or Green Lantern, but for the most part, like we just had all this time without the big seven, and then it was a Morrison thing to like bring them back. Like, these are our gods, we have to put them back together.
Was this post Justice League of America stuff where they had to...
Justice League of America is like the Silver Age title.
Yeah.
And then Justice League America is what the title starts being called, that turns into Justice League International.
Oh, okay.
So JLA kind of brings it back, brings like the seven back.
Sure.
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter.
Sure.
The seven are back. The first arc of that involves this alien super team shows up on Earth called the Hyper Clan. And they're going to like fix the world. They're more proactive. They're like,
sure.
Oh, you got a desert here. What if we just like made it a lush garden?
Oh, wow.
And people are like, yeah. Like, and the whole world basically is like, the Justice League fucking sucks.
These guys rule.
You like turns on them. And the Justice League starts petty about it, but they end up being right. But like, they kind of start with like, people don't like us. Something's hinky.
Sure, yeah.
It turns out there is, but it's like they don't have a lot to go on.
It's not the right way to approach it.
They don't have a lot to go on at first. but they start realizing, like, no, we think the HyperClan's using mind control, and some of these things they're doing, it feels like a setup. The Watchtower gets destroyed, Metamorpho dies, and they're like, it's definitely the HyperClan. It's like, do we have proofs? Like, we don't need it.
Sure.
Like, it's actually kind of circumstantial, because when they go to investigate, one of the HyperClan just goes like, we're gonna kill you, and it's like, they could have just been like, no, it wasn't us. You know what I mean?
It's like yeah, no, okay.
But we got to do this arc in 4 issues, so like we're really speeding through it. The reveal is that the HyperClan. Well, the other thing is a bunch of heroes that had fire-related powers. Their powers have stopped working.
Oh.
And you just hear it in like offhand comments through panels.
Sure.
The reveal is that the HyperClan is just an advanced party of white Martians.
Sure.
Who are prepping for, I think it's like 70 white Martians are about to invade Earth.
Wow.
So they are Martians with
also
all the...
not that many, but yes.
But all the powers...
All the, like, Superman. Yeah,
all the powers of Martian Manhunter, which is essentially the power level of Superman plus telepathy, shape-shifting, intangibility, invisibility, like... pretty fucked. And so you learn that the HyperClan are white Martians. It's admitted, like, I know we're sort of tired of it now, but there's some really good Batman shit in that arc. Because, like, when the HyperClan sort of turns on the Justice League, but they don't know they're Martians yet, they attack them and they, like, shoot down Batman's bat plane, and Superman thinks he's dead, and Superman, like, they get him with kryptonite and all this kind of stuff. They basically round up the Justice League. Easy, pretty much. But they don't investigate Batman's crashed plane to make sure he's dead and stuff like that. And Batman's like, that's the last clue I needed. You didn't investigate the wreck because there's fire at it. And then there's this bit where he, like, infiltrates their base, and, like, 3 of them, like, turn visible, and they're like, you're fucked, you stupid little fucking human. And he's like, oh, but I know who you are. And he takes out a matchbook and, like, and they're like, one little match, what's that gonna do? And then one of them's like, wait, what's that smell? And he, like, tosses the match, and he's like, douse the room in gasoline. And there's just this panel of Batman in the flames, like,
wow,
it's pretty fucking good. But at any rate, the HyperClan, like, I think did show a sort of scariness to the power of the white Martians, although I will say the resolution of it almost undoes it entirely, because the Justice League can't stop the full invasion force. 70 Martians descending on Earth, but Superman takes over all communications channels and just goes, they're Martians, use fire, and all of Earth just starts setting shit on fire.
Wow.
So, like, citizens of Earth have, like, Molotov cocktails and, like, beat the Martians.
Wow.
It's just kind of amazing. But it does sort of undo the threat. But, like, on a 1-to-1 level, I do think the white Martians are very scary. But globally, even with Superman, they didn't actually have kryptonite. And Superman at a moment realizes, like, wait a minute, like, what if it's just a psychic impression of kryptonite? I'm psychosomatically kryptonite ill. And then he's like, great, heat vision. And they're like, oh, fire. Like,
that's a little convenient.
As soon as it turns,
Sure, that's a bit too convenient. But
so I would say the white Martians maybe don't come off as scary as they do in
that Mark Waid book.
Mark Waid book, but they can be. Like, that's just about how you use them, I think.
Yeah.
Next
question from E. Rut, who asks, what's the origin?
I'm stuck in E. Rut. I mean, wait, hang on.
Huh? No.
I say, like, stuck in a rut, but then I said I'm stuck in E. Rut, and it sounded like I'm giraffing E. Rut.
I'm about to eat nut in this giraffe.
Jesus Christ. That in the future we'll only E. Nut.
Yeah. You use 3 seashells and you E. Nut. What's the origin of Martian Manhunter's conflict with Despero? Are they just pushed together as arch enemies because they're both telepathic, or is there something more personal and specific?
Yeah, I mean, Martian Manhunter, we talked about, like, opposite villains and mirror villains, right? And I think Martian Manhunter's mirror villain is very obviously his half-brother, Ma'alefa'ak.
Yeah.
Another Martian. But Despero over the years has essentially emerged as a sort of like archenemy for Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter, a character that has had solo series, but very infrequently.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
And is often just in team books and stuff like that. So it's hard to develop your personal rogues gallery.
Yeah,
that way. He has some, but it's still tricky. It starts back in a Justice League of America issue in the Silver Age, like first appearance of Despero or something like that. And Martian Manhunter is partly instrumental in beating him there. I think Flash, too. The two of them beat Despero in this. You know, Despero is this alien conqueror with the flame of Pytar. He has psychic powers and a third eye and stuff like that. Big pink guy with like a fin head sort of thing. And they sort of set him up as a Justice League villain, but over the years they did kind of... Martian Manhunter would get pushed against him because he's also telepathic. So in the Justice League International era or whatever, Despero comes back and is like, where's the fucking Justice League? And is like tearing through like Blue Beetle and shit that. And Martian Manhunter goes up against him again. And there's a good story in there, and he gives him this thing called the Mayavana. It's essentially like a psychic gift that's so powerful a Martian can only give it once. So it's a great gift and honor. It's basically a psychic illusion you can't break out of. Wow. It's so strong. But he uses it on Despero because Despero is impossibly strong, invulnerable, psychic, like really tough to defeat. And so Martian Manhunter uses that on him, traps him in a psychic illusion of Despero killing Martian Manhunter over and over again. But he wastes this thing.
Yeah.
Despero, of course, eventually gets out, but there are like from that time on, Martian Manhunter becomes part of the opposition to Despero, like really targeted. One time, him and Aquaman try to team use their various telepathies on him. Aquaman uses it on white Martians too in that HyperClan story.
Really?
They're like, what can you do? Talk to fish? And he's like, I can access your the part of your brain you inherited from like your marine ancestors. And he's like, I can give you a fucking seizure. And he just like gives a Martian a seizure, which is like a pretty aggressive use of this is Hook Hand Aquaman,
of course.
But all this to say, Martian Manhunter has sort of morphed into the archenemy of Despero. In the New 52, they do a little mild twist on it, and I don't remember the details, but it is more personal. Despero calls him like brother and stuff like that. And it's not that Despero is Martian. He's not. He's from a planet called Kalinar or something like that. I wanted to say Kolinar, but that's the Vulcan like rite of passage. Klingon.
That's fucked up, dude.
I know. Let's just move past it.
Wow. Doing fucking Vulcan ears, Jesus.
But in the New 52, they sort of imply that they have like a personal connection. I don't remember if we fully explore it, but it's sort of like I think it's in like Justice League 20 is where you first see them fight, and then they have a thing all through Forever Evil because Despero is psychically locking all of the Justice Leaguers into the Firestorm Matrix. Oh. And Martian Manhunter has to break out of like illusion in illusion in illusion, basically. So there is a moment where it's more personal, but otherwise I would say they sort of came together because their power sets, extreme strength and telepathy, sort of force them together. It makes sense narratively. I'd say it's relatively organic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question from Dem Jinkies, who asks, did the psychic storm wipe out all Martians or just the greens? If it was just the greens, what happened to the white and the reds, etc.?
So the psychic storm that you're talking about is this thing called Hronmir's Curse. So the curse was created by Ma'alafa'ak, Jean-Jean's half-brother.
Yeah.
Who was such a deranged psychopath, committing like the most atrocious crimes you can in a Martian society, like true like psychic violations of people. That the Martian Council basically wipes his memory and removes his psychic ability psychically.
Jesus.
They essentially lobotomize him.
Wow.
And right before they lobotomize him, he says, "I'll still know how to hate. You can take it all, but I'll still know how to hate," which is a pretty cool thing to say. And sure enough, he's right. Because even though his memory is wiped and he can't hear anyone's thoughts, he sees the way people look at him. He feels ostracized. He knows he's different. He thinks he's a freak from birth. All these kind of things. And this growing resentment and hatred that he feels but cannot
do anything
rationalize.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Turns into, he develops this, it's basically like a virus, a plague that spreads psychically. And it's a plague of psychic fire.
Jesus.
And it wipes out the entire Martian race. Jean sees his family die, and he only survives because he is accidentally teleported to Earth by the communication beam / teleportation ray of Dr. Saul Erdel. It's an accident.
Yeah.
That Jean is saved. Ma'alafa Ak obviously survives because he's not psychic and it can't be transmitted to him.
Does this mean that Martians exist like up to that point just like on Mars?
Yeah.
But like
the thing with the Dr. Erdel's ray, and I don't know if this got retconned or not, but it's implied that it also teleported him through time.
Because that
it's been like 200 years or something.
That feels like it's the only way that's possible.
And that was a thing. So like Martian Manhunter gets like accidentally plucked from his planet and then thrust 200 years into the future as well.
That makes more sense.
Because timey-wimey
sure,
sci-fi
I would honestly rather that than like, oh, Martians have always just been right there.
But I mean, still just 200 years. It means that like while they were making America, there's a Martian society.
While they were making America great for the first time.
And maybe the only.
And not then.
No, not even. So that's why Jean survives. That's why Ma'alafa Ak survives. There's Miss Martian, Magan Maors, and she survives in a sort of like Superman way where she is like sent from the planet during the plague.
Sure.
To escape. She's sent to the Vega system, which we've talked about before. That's the system
that nothing comes out of.
That Green Lanterns aren't allowed to patrol.
Yeah.
That like has 25 planets in it. That's like the home of the Omega Men and Larfleeze and
whatever
the
happens
Citadel
there stays there.
And Tamaran, where Starfire's from, and the Warlords of Okara, the Spider Guild. All of that's in the Vega system. And yeah, exactly. It's in the middle of the space desert. Yeah. And so that's how she survives. The White Martians that become the Hyper Clan and that invading force survive because they, in a long ago Martian civil war, where they were the aggressors and awful and did war crimes, they were sent to a place called the Still Zone, which is not the same as the Phantom Zone, but similar.
Sure.
And they eventually escaped from there. But that's why they survived.
Is it Still Zone?
Yeah, it's.
Is it no longer Zone, or is it?
No, sorry. It's like a cool hip photography place. It's called Stills One.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Wow, Are you exhausted? Are your legs tired from that long walk?
No, I'm just gonna put that in every mall in southwestern Ontario.
I mean, that does fucking sound.
Doesn't that sound like a thing? Like, what do you do here? It's like we take portraits. Stills One. I hate this. It's next to a West 49.
It's across from West 49.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's next to a Green Earth.
Yeah. Near a Randy River.
Oh yeah, baby. Those are more or less the Martians that have survived. There are some additional examples in other things, but
so it wasn't just the Greens; it was all of them.
They all died. Yeah, because White Martians were also telepathic.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make the argument that like the descendants of Martians, the Saturnians, they continue to survive. There are technically yellow Martians, although their canonicity is dubious, I would say. Sure. That's more like trying to work in an old Silver Age Wonder Woman thing.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Next question comes from Ben Forrest Stewart.
Oh, lock the door if you're fucking a giraffe.
Yeah, my back's to the door and its back's to me.
Yeah, from the window to the wall, and its neck goes all along.
I'll choke.
The only thing that gets me off is the sound they only make when they die.
But it's hard to speak when you're choking.
Nice.
Bedford Stewart asks, do you think Martians have a weakness to fire? Do you think Martians having a weakness to fire is too convenient? It seems like it's too easy for a normal person to stop them, since fire of any sort seems to be able to completely cripple them. Do you think that there's a way to change that perception?
So there was a story that sort of tried to address this.
Yeah.
And in the story, it's that fire didn't always make them weak. Fire used to make them come.
What?
Well,
what?
I'm paraphrasing. There didn't used to be green Martians and white Martians. They were
the green Martians made the white Martians after they saw fire.
A million white Martians. No, they used to be a single race called the Burning Martians.
Whoa.
And they were like violent and like they would reproduce asexually, but only in like flames and acts of violence and stuff like that.
Jesus.
And the Guardians of the Universe were like, they're so fucked and they almost have spaceships. So we need
the Krogans in Mass Effect.
So they're like, we have to do something. And so the Guardians of the Universe, the little blue guys that run the Green Lantern Corps, they come in and like rip their DNA apart and make them into two species and implant the weakness to fire in them, the psychic weakness to fire.
Wow.
As a way to like keep the burning Martians at bay.
Jesus.
So that weakness to fire is deliberately OP.
Wow.
Because they're like, we need to make sure they don't even come fucking close to it.
Theoretically, if they could get past it.
So it happens once. Martian Manhunter has this kind of like brief sort of like thing with fire. And she, like from the Justice League International.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And she like is trying to help him get over his psychic weakness.
Yeah.
And it undoes the mental blocks in his head.
Wow.
And it unleashes, basically he gets possessed by a burning Martian entity called Furnace.
Whoa, of course. Wonder where they got the name.
And so it does come up. It is a thing. But yeah, so it's actually like celestial intervention puts the weakness to fire in the Martian physiology.
And it did make them come.
So, back to the original question. I want to throw it to you. When you've got a character like Martian Manhunter, who essentially the powers of Superman plus a bunch of others, and he's as powerful in those as Superman is in his, do you think like a well-lit birthday cake is too easy of a weakness?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I like the idea that like,
because he is wildly powerful.
Yeah, I think fire is a good thing for him.
Right.
It's better than like, I don't know, wood. But
looking at you, Alan Scott.
Yeah. But I do think that it makes his battles interesting because, you know, what's at every fucking like superhero battle? A fire.
Sure, yeah.
And so I do think it makes it interesting. Because It's like, what do you do if it's like you have a really easy thing to hurt you, but you also have the most power? That's interesting, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like, how do you get past that thing? And it's also
Martians are also obsessed with fire. Like their main god is Franmir, who's the god of like art and war and fire.
I mean, it makes so much sense when you consider the fact that they were the burning Martians first. I mean,
Totally.
it like fully adds up. And you could do some interesting stuff with that god and maybe be.
And by the way, Franmir is a real god.
Yeah,
because briefly, Shazam had all of his patron gods replaced.
Yes.
During the Darkseid War, and the H ended up standing for Hronmir, and he got fire powers for a bit, which was a new thing for Shazam. So, like that, those gods are real. And in one case, it's Dream of the Endless, but he just has a Martian name. In Sandman, Martian Manhunter meets him and it's like, oh my god, my lord, like whatever his name was.
Yeah. So I think it's good. I mean, it's like Superman with kryptonite, right? Like
Sure.
It is a thing that, I mean, it shouldn't be, but it's really easily accessible on Earth.
I also think it's important to say it's not a Martian's only weakness.
Sure.
Like Aquaman can give them seizures.
Sure, yeah.
It's not their only weakness.
Yeah. But no. I'm okay with it. I think a birthday cake is a little bit much, but
yeah, I mean, I don't actually think that would take him. But like every once in a while, we play with the idea of like, how much is it a psychic thing and how much is it a physical thing? How much can you withstand and whatnot? Yeah.
But no, I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes to us from Nick Dreicher, who asks, Martian Manhunter is and will always be my favorite DC character. No, I don't agree. Can you?
You don't agree that it's his favorite DC character?
Yeah. Incorrect.
I think your favorite is
what?
Well, no, you're saying you disagree that it's his favorite character.
No, I think yours is it's Mr. Biscuits.
Fucking love him.
Can you try selling him for someone that may think otherwise?
I think Martian Manhunter is. I'm being reductive here. But I think Martian Manhunter is an interesting halfway point between Superman and Batman. There's
I would agree with that.
There's the power thing and the fantastic adventures and the alien history and the sci-fi thing there. But there's also the loneliness,
the
detective thing, how do I fit in this world? Do I even have a secret identity? Like
my family's dead.
Who am I? Oh, I mean, Superman too. Sure, but you know, Martian Manhunter does see his family die. It's different, you know. He's somewhere between like Superman, Supergirl, and Batman is Martian Manhunter's experience of the world, and I think what makes him compelling is that in addition, maybe even more than Clark Kent, like. Martian Manhunter chooses to live in our world, and yeah, he can have a secret identity, but he can't be himself. Clark can, and yeah, he has to hide things from some people, and yeah, he's got a secret identity, but like just by the simple virtue of he can pass, he gets to be himself.
Sure, yeah.
Martian Manhunter never can fully be himself. Even his Martian form, when he's on the Justice League, he's green skin, red, big kind of purpley blue cape. That's not what Martians normally look like.
Really?
That's him making a more pleasant version of himself for people so he'll be accepted. Like, Martians are way more fucked up looking. Like, they've got, like,
really
diamond heads and spikes and, like, more like insect limbs and stuff like that. Like, Martian Manhunter isn't even in his Martian form when he's Martian Manhunter.
Wow, I didn't know
So I do
that.
think there's, like, when a good writer takes on Martian Manhunter, there's this, like, immense well of like, and because he's psychic too, he's a very interior kind of character, very philosophical, very introspective, very attuned and very sensitive, and I think that makes for an interesting story, especially then when you pair in things like a pulpy detective-y kind of thing or a more bombastic sci-fi kind of thing. Like he can drift in genres. He can drift in tones. Sometimes he's very funny. He's a good straight man for funny things to happen. He's a very, I I think there's a lot of pathos in that character, and he's trying to find his place in the world and stuff like that. Like, he's the last of his kind, essentially, and yeah, I think he's very captivating. Yeah.
I love Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Next question from Brad K. Armour, who asks, back in the Silver Age, it was said that John couldn't use any of his other powers when he went invisible, as a way to explain why he doesn't just win every fight by being invisible the whole time. Is that still a thing? If not, why doesn't he just do that? Is he stupid?
I mean, that's almost certainly not true anymore. I mean, definitely in adaptations, things like the cartoons and stuff like that, we see Martians go invisible and use their telepathy.
Yeah.
At least use those two powers together. Technically, that he has a form of, he's got like laser beam eyes.
Wow.
But it's Martian vision.
Sure.
And it's some sort of like a bio-fission thing that's happening, which is why it doesn't also hurt him.
Sure.
But I don't know if he can use that while invisible necessarily. Shape-changing while invisible, I don't know that.
To what end?
I'd also just from the material standpoint of a comic book, I don't think you would see that.
Sure.
You know, the shape-changing is like to get out of a trap or to be a bigger monster to fight a different shape changer or to like do a thing. If you're invisible, you wouldn't also like be changing your shape. And, you know, it's not even that you're invisible and now you got to sneak around things, because often you could just be intangible too, just move through things. So invisibility and intangibility often get paired together.
God, he is so powerful.
For Martian Manhunter. He can use those for sure. I truly don't think that is a thing anymore. But I do think there are some powers you are unlikely to see paired with his invisibility. I think his Martian vision is one. I think his shape-shifting is another. I just don't see like materially when you would see that happen.
Yeah. All right. Now let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
Arpit the Hero.
How dare you?
Who asks, do yellow Martians still exist, or are they a thing of the past?
They do technically still exist. So yellow Martians were like kind of one-off Silver Age Wonder Woman baddies. They teamed up with Saturnians and Plutonians, and this is like before Martian Manhunter existed, I think. So it's like these versions of these aliens are like, it's not like Jem, son of Saturn, or something like that.
Sure.
And they team up to invade or something like that. Now, other creators since then have gone back and like worked the yellow Martians in, you know, in that kind of fun retcon way of like, nope, they're part of Mars too. There are 3 Martians. There's green Martians and white Martians. And the greens are the peaceful philosophers, and the white Martians are the warmongery violent ones, and the yellow Martians are also there. You know, like they just kind of do that. But we don't spend a lot of time with them. We don't really explore that. It's more like doing a service to just this old bit of lore that's like fun to fold in, as opposed to like, let's really get to the heart of what makes a yellow Martian tick. You know, like, we're not really like doing that, you know what I mean? So technically, yes. Or rather, they did exist.
Fair. Yeah. All right, next question comes from Luzar, another fellow Martian. Who asks
Yes. Yeah.
Who asks, would you like to see another appearance or a version of Furnace?
I think the easy answer would be for me to say no, because we've done the Burning Martians thing and it's done. Yeah. My counter to that is I would just like to see more of an establishment of Martian Manhunter as a character with a rogues gallery. And to do that, your rogues have to come back. You know, like Human Flame, we've seen a few versions of. Ma'alafa'ak comes back every once in a while. Despero comes back every once in a while. We've seen the Vulture, the organization, a couple of times. He has a little tiny bit of a rogues gallery. But to really have one, they've got to come back. And so to have Furnace maybe possess a different Martian or take on a new body or like find a what, like, I'm totally fine with that. But the other piece of this is we have to be telling Martian Manhunter stories. And the last Martian Manhunter book that we got Bless It was amazing. Steve Orlando, Riley Rossmo,
Yeah.
a really good book, but it's a retelling of his origin.
Yeah.
It's not really a new. We went back to Colorado, to Denver with Diane Mead, the detective, and stuff like that. Like, it's not. We're not really moving it forward. The New 52 one was like, here's a new origin for the New 52. So his last 2 solo series haven't been moving forward, right? Like, in order to do this and set it up, either in Justice League books or on his own or in a backup story or something. He had a backup in Action Comics, and I think they brought Vulture back. But we have to do that shit. If you want him to have a rogues gallery, you have to bring some of them back. And I think bringing Furnace back is totally fine.
And it's a cool
a
concept.
Martian whose power is fire. I mean, that's like Metallo for Superman, or like, you know what I mean? Like a villain that is your weakness.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fine. I like that. We've already done that. Furnace possessed him. Not give him an exterior body.
Yeah.
Let's, like, I'm totally fine with it. Yeah. I would actually like to see it, but that's because I like Martian Manhunter and I want more fucking Manhunter stories.
Sure.
Yeah.
However we're going to get that, let's get it.
Totally.
All right. Next, we're leaving Reddit and heading over to the Doc Squad.
Fuck.
Why would you say fuck for a thing you're prepared for?
I'm ready for it's how this is like my pregame ritual.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You're a sporto now, so you understand the importance of superstition.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So you always have to say fuck.
I
like,
always
as
have
if
to
you
say
don't
fuck,
have a
and then I
plan.
got to stall a bunch.
Oh, stalling, but stalling
yeah.
feels like a part of a
It's
thing.
just like I'm just going through the motions of stalling. I'm obviously not trying to think of anything.
If anybody knows about going through the motions, it's me.
Every doc scored. Scored your doc. Scored.
Every doc that you're scored because you scored in your docs.
In my doxuel.
Doc scored. Nice.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that. Did you watch that fucking documentary
on the Backstreet Boys?
No, on Lou fucking Pearlman.
No.
Oh, you should watch it. It's on Netflix.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like it, am I?
Nope.
Yeah. That's about right.
The Overmat, aka
Chicken Matty,
Buck, who asks, have any of the other planets in our solar system had native species? And if so, what were/are they like?
Absolutely.
Ooh.
So, obviously Martians. We've talked a lot about them today.
Yeah.
Saturnians, like Gem, son of Saturn. There are also Titanians, like Imra Ardeen. Imra Ardeen, Saturn girl in the 31st century, is Titanian. Like I said, in the Silver Age, there were also like Plutonians that teamed up with the Martians to invade Earth in that Wonder Woman comic.
Haven't really touched on that since.
Not particularly.
Yeah.
There are Venusians.
Ooh.
That's what Mr. Mind is.
Oh.
The little wormy guy
Mr.
with the radio voice box that's an arch enemy of Captain Marvel. He's from Venus.
Wow.
He is a Venusian worm.
So is that what they are like?
I don't know how much we actually explore Venus in old Captain Marvel comics and stuff like that. But what we know is that Mr. Mind is from there. A notable Venusian. I don't know if we meet... Well, if you go to the DC 1 million... every planet in the solar system is inhabited in some way.
Sure.
And they each have a protector from the Justice Legion Alpha.
Even the gas planet?
Oh, yeah. And, like, Aquaman is, like, king of Neptune and shit like that.
Sure.
And Batman runs a prison on Pluto. And, they all have something, you know.
Sure, yeah.
At that point in the future, Jean-Jeans has merged with the planet Mars. He's a living version of the planet.
Jesus.
Yeah, which is sort of interesting. But yeah, those are kind of the big ones. So Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, and Saturn's moon Titan.
Sure.
Or rather, other moons of Saturn, and then specifically Titan.
These are powers that are new to her. She is the one deep in the moon.
I didn't want to do the accent.
Coward.
We watch the transformation videos sometimes, but they're all in Japanese. It's like sailor power activate.
Nice.
You know.
Does your daughter like that? Good
She
show.
does like that. She loves watching the Sailor Scouts transform.
Next question from the Moral Compass of the Doxcord, who asks, what's the publication origin of Martian Manhunter? I.e., was he created organically to fit within the DC universe, or as it existed at the time, or was he a product of an acquisition? I'm mainly curious about the incongruity behind Superman and Martian Manhunter's coexistence. It does feel a bit redundant, like Captain Marvel and Superman.
Yeah, he's not an acquisition. His first appearance is in Detective Comics.
Interesting.
In a backup story. He's called Jaffe just did a whole thing on this. He's not called the Martian Manhunter, I think, until he's in the Justice League.
Oh, really?
He's called the Manhunter from Mars.
Oh.
And they're more detective-y adventures, but he is this alien that has these powers and stuff like that. But he doesn't get called the Martian Manhunter until much later. So the thing to remember is, like, you know, it's work for hire stuff. So DC owns all of these characters, and if they do well, they have the right to move them into other things.
Sure.
Does that mean that the very first Manhunter from Mars story in a Detective Comics anthology was like, and this guy's going to join the Justice League?
Sure, yeah.
Probably not. But by virtue of being, like, made in that world, he was in DC. It wasn't like this didn't take place in, like, an alternate history or an imaginary story or something like that. It was just like a story.
Not that they were that concerned about the universe at the time.
No, and also, like Superman, Martian Manhunter's powers, I think, evolved over appearances. You know, like, it wasn't like first appearance we just cycled through all of them. We went, great, did it. Like, I mean, it's been a while since I've read it, so maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure those evolved.
Totally.
I have a hard time imagining Martian Vision was in the first appearance or something like that.
I can't imagine, you know? It would be.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that some of the other analogs, like Captain Marvel or Captain Atom or things like that, those were acquisitions. Those were somewhere else was trying to replicate the Superman thing, and then we folded them in. Martian Manhunter's not like that, but again, he started more pulpy, detective-y, and then moved to superhero. And then you're right, as these powers sort of develop, or we add powers, or he's got to do something with Superman or whatever. If we don't have Superman in this story, we have to use him for it. They do start to become like mimics a little bit, you know. But no, he's a DC thing. I mean, on the acquisition note, interesting to note that he was almost the opposite of an acquisition.
They tried to get rid of him?
Almost.
Wow.
There was a period. It was during when Marvel and DC were doing crossovers. And in one of them, I don't remember which one, the thought was, at the end of it, Marvel and DC would permanently swap the rights to a character.
Wow.
So there'd be some stakes of the crossover.
Oh, sure.
And as I recall, or the rumor or whatever, Marvel had put up She-Hulk.
Sure.
And DC would maybe put up Martian Manhunter.
A green for a green. That's fair.
I'm so glad it didn't happen. Martian Manhunter is such a good character.
Such a DC character.
Them not knowing what to do with him is not the same as him not being good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really like She-Hulk, but
she feels like a Marvel character.
But that also feels like a mess because she's connected to other Hulks.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like Martian Manhunter is at least just like Mars. There you go.
Yeah, I do like that idea, but
the idea of like swap like
cool
that's
concept.
Very cool. Very like intricate sort of legal maneuvering. I'm sure, but interesting in a lot of cool ways.
I love that idea.
But it didn't happen. But he was almost given away.
Wow.
So there you go.
Look at that. Last, actually, we have two more questions.
Okay.
We've got from Mars D95.
Holy shit.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Were all the Manhunters as powerful / talented as John, or was he exceptional?
So in some versions of his backstory, the Manhunters are just what the Martians called cops, essentially.
Sure.
He's a law enforcement officer. He's a Manhunter from Mars.
Yeah.
He wasn't more special necessarily than the rest of them. I mean, ultimately, Jean-Jean's is powerful even by Martian standards.
Okay.
But more or less, he wasn't like known for being special necessarily. The New 52 one that we talked about, where he is sort of essentially like a bioweapon.
Yeah.
That is like, he is like made by like blood magic and science and that.
So
like
stupid.
that Jean-Jean's is like, Martians don't have the powers he has.
Yeah.
He is actually different and special. And in a sense, that's more interesting.
Sure.
Because it is sort of crazy to be like, there was a planet full of these fucking...
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like,
but also it makes sense why it's not around.
But I don't know that I love that execution or that particular version of telling that kind of story. But that version, obviously special. I think the thing is, he was maybe more special in his moral fiber. You know what I mean? Like all these kind of things, like Hawkman or like name your law enforcement kind of characters. Like they're always made more special by how they do the job,
their will and
their drive, what motivates them.
Totally.
That kind of shit. That's usually more what's special about them than how much they bench.
I agree. Last question from Finger Stripes 13.
Nice.
Who asks,
more like fingered spots right of that giraffe.
There it is. Okay. Yeah, nice. Gonna talk about double digits. How did Miss Martian come about and end up on Earth? I always thought Martian Manhunter was supposed to be the last Martian, or one of the last. And is she actually his niece in the comics, or is that just the Young Justice show?
I think even in the Young Justice show, they more or less say that she's not really his niece.
Okay.
And that's more of like an adoptive kind of thing.
Sure.
And in the comics, they're not like uncle and niece, but there is a sort of adoptive thing. The thing with Miss Martian is she also has a green form, but she is a white Martian.
Oh.
She is not a green Martian. McGann Moors, or her human name, Megan Morse.
Of course.
Where
they got that?
Can I just say, I love Martian like names and stuff. I love all the apostrophe gaps, like Haranmir, and they call the planet Mars Ma'alaka Andra and stuff. Like I fucking that's like juicy fucking lore shit. I believe they call Saturn Hranmir Ka'andra.
Whoa.
And there is a name for Earth that I don't remember. That's like something Ka'andra. But at any rate. She's a white Martian. And like I said, she's sent away from Mars during the Plague of Psychic Fire and sent to the Vega system. I don't know that we ever find out definitively how she makes it to Earth.
Oh.
But she does make it to Earth at some point. And is sort of adopted by the Martian Manhunter and is like, no, this is my niece, treat her nice, blah, blah. But she hides as a green Martian because she knows the reputation of white Martians on Earth.
Fair.
And on the show, on Young Justice, they go a step further and they make the twist that white Martians were actually persecuted, not the aggressors.
Do you like that?
I think it's interesting. I'm not against it. In the comics, that's definitively not true.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's an interest. I think that's cool. So she joins the Titans and stuff like that. They eventually find out that she's a white Martian, but they accept her anyway and all that kind of stuff. She is extremely powerful. Like the case that is more or less solidly made now, she is possibly more powerful than Martian Manhunter in the way that Supergirl is with Superman.
Damn.
And yeah, she's been on the Justice League. She's been on the Titans. She's been on Young Justice. She's a very, very powerful character. Very cool. And it kind of feels like an idea that should have happened way earlier. Like, she's like a Jeff Johns creation.
Wow.
Like mid-2000s or something like that. And you kind of feel like in the era of sidekicks, nobody landed on Miss Martian.
Yeah, feels like a pretty easy dunk.
I mean, Johns is very good at that shit, to be fair.
Sure.
But yeah, somehow that wasn't a real thing back then. But no, I don't really know how she got from Vega to Earth. And I'm not sure that we ever really nail it down. But she did escape Mars before Hromir's curse.
Huh. Well,
and she did come to Earth eventually. But yeah, she's a
fill.
white Martian, so interestingly.
Well, that was the last question. We've discussed mostly the Martians.
Mostly Martians, little bit of those fucking Saturnians.
Absolutely.
Yeah, baby.
If you want to send us questions for next week's episode,
you will be able to
when that is posted.
Yep.
The theme.
Listen, you're on my timetable. I'm not on yours.
Oh my God. You can send those questions to all of our various different social media platforms.
Dr. DC Podcast, wherever you find us.
Also, it's no longer Preetgust.
No.
We're not glistening with Preetgust. You're about to eat gust.
Yeah, we're eat guzzlers.
That's right. And
it's the eatgist to end all eatgists. We're spending more money than we've ever spent.
Yeah, I've spent at least $1,000 so far.
I have your receipts. I found them just buried in the fucking bag.
Oh,
so
that's
I'll
good.
help you expense that
from
our money.
Good, nice. Sweet. So yeah, the first week was celebrity snacks.
Yeah, celebrity food, celebrity like owned products.
Did you drink all that champagne?
Oh yeah, we finished it that night.
Nice.
Have you finished the Casamigos?
No.
Listen, it's good that you got that out of there. You know what it does to me.
Oh my God. No, I'm saving it.
Listen to Eatgist.
I'm saving it for a special occasion.
We're going through a whole month of the internet of food.
That's right.
All sorts of fun stuff. We're doing weird food combos this week.
That's right.
Next week is a blind taste test. There's all sorts of fun shit
I sent
coming.
you all the rules. Have you gone through them?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I'm good.
Nice.
I'm in compliance.
Okay, good. Because I would hate to have to, give you a demerit.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I would like that.
Maybe you'll get the tequila.
Go over to patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the doc score, but those higher levels, that's where you can get your Eat Guest in there, baby. And there's bonus series like Toretto Talks and Bonding Time and Cerebros. There's going to be another Cerebros episode coming about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, that's right.
So stuff is coming up, and yeah, it all helps to support us.
Yeah, baby. And if you have time, catch up with 10 seasons, because we just got to the 10th season of Supernatural in our other podcast, Ghostfacers.
Yeah, Ghostfacers is a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We just completed season 9 of 15.
Yeah, there's only 5 more to go.
We are almost 200 episodes into the show.
We're finally at the beginning of the third of...
We're at the beginning of the third wave of good, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a fun time. We talk about real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show, and yeah, we're starting season 10 next week.
So jump on or go fuck a giraffe.
Yeah, all of this will make sense and more when you listen to the show.
If you catch up, get through all of 9 seasons, and you'll finally, in the last 30 seconds of the last episode of the last of the 9th season, you'll understand.
Yeah,
I mean, not really. Not really.
No, you'll understand.
Oh, we'll make sure that you will never forget.
You'll understand.
That's it for this week.
Adios.
Superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men.